I'm Rebecca Lavoie, and this is the Readathon. And we are here with recurring Readathon all-star guest, Mel Barrett. Hi, Mel.
Hi, I'm an all-star.
Mel, want to remind people why you're an all-star besides being on this podcast?
I am the host of the In Between podcast, which is a deep investigative true crime podcast. And you can listen to it wherever you listen to podcasts. And I'm not going to say podcasts again.
Wherever you get your audio, as the public radio people used to say. All right. So today was day 16 of testimony in the Karen Read case. Can you believe it?
Nope, it's wild.
But before we talk about what happened in court today, I want to talk about some news that broke this morning. Judge Cannoni was forced by the United States Court of Appeals to revisit her buffer zone decision, which just basically pushed everyone way back, gave the police broad authority to act with impunity in anyone they believed was breaking the rules. And basically, a couple people took it to court. A couple of courts rejected it. They took it to higher courts. And the U.S. Court of Appeals told Bev she had 48 hours to make this constitutional. So essentially, without getting too much into the weeds, the rules have been chilled out a little bit. Peaceful protest can occur as long as it's not amplified, as long as people aren't holding free Karen Read signs specifically. But this was very much triggered by the fact that there was a woman wearing a shirt that said "Criminals Run Norfolk County," which is not directive of witnesses or trial outcome, and was forced to take off her shirt and walk back to her car
in her bra.
That's right. Yep. So anyway, so that has been changed. We'll see what happens. The other part of Bev's ruling there is that if you have an issue, you can take it immediately to court. So she had to basically make it constitutional. So here we are in a functioning America for a minute.
Well, just ask Gary Buchanan about the First Amendment. He'll be able to lay it out for you, Bev.
He'll be able to school you because he knows all about it. All right. So we started today with Bob Alessi continuing his cross-examination of Maureen Hartnett. It's Maureen, right? My girl, Maureen. I actually really like this witness. I can't help it, even though her dryness is very appealing. Her lack of ability or willingness to just make shit up in the moment is great.
Or be defensive, really. I mean, she's defensive of her work.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. So did you see this testimony this morning?
I did. I had a hard time following some of it because they're both so heady. And I'm sure the jury, I'm assuming the jury was feeling the same way. Do you want my impression of? I'll give you my
over impression, then I'll tell you what I think the biggest takeaway was.
Okay, so I'm just going to give you my impression of the two of them. I was concerned about Alessi. I felt like he was having his lunch handed to him. You know what I mean? Like, I think is that the right expression? She was kind of schooling him a little bit, and I haven't seen that happen to him yet. And he seemed a little bit off his game
with Maureen.
But then I feel like okay. You didn't get that? I didn't. To me, it's in the beginning, it felt like there was this one moment where I was like, oh, she just kind of schooled him. And I don't usually see that. And I wish I could remember what it was. But that was my overall impression. But I think he then revamped his strategy a little bit and then went in for the jugular. Yeah.
Well, I think the big takeaway of this whole testimony today is the deconstruction of this years-long talking point that Commonwealth attorneys and social media trolls have been making that has never been demonstrated nor proven in any way, that there is, quote, microscopic fragments of taillight embedded in John O'Keefe's shirt or sweatshirt or glass, depending on who you're talking to. This came up over and over and over again in trial one. Lally would just ask witnesses, would you change your mind if you knew that microscopic pieces of taillight were found in John O'Keefe? He even asked that to Dr. Russell. I'll never forget it. Yeah. And I'm like, what microscopic pieces? You've never shown that. You've never demonstrated it. You just keep saying it's true. And just because and then you have Jen Coffin-Dander lady constantly tweeting about it. I have always known this was bullshit. I knew it was because it was never shown. It was never demonstrated. There were never photos of it. There was never any proof of it except some vague reference in a report, which is not what it says. And today, we actually got evidence that it's total bullshit, because what happened is that Maureen, I'm just going to call her Maureen because she's a nice Irish girl, she got one envelope with both John O'Keefe's orange t-shirt and sweatshirt in it, and there was also some debris in the envelope. She pulls those items of clothing out. She scrapes them both with a big metal spatula because why not? They're already combined. Puts those scrapings in a bag, and she says she just saw debris, like dirt, debris. She didn't even say there were pieces of taillight, and then she sent that off. So the idea that you could know where anything in that envelope came from based on how it was collected, preserved, delivered to her, collected by her, preserved again. There's no fucking microscopic pieces of taillight in John O'Keefe's shirt. Thoughts?
Yeah. And Alessi made the point too. Do you know if they swept up the emergency room that John was in? His clothes were on the floor.
Right.
It could have been debris from the hospital. It could have been debris from a car, outside dirt, grass, anything, glass. It could have been, those little micro, what are they called? Those little pieces of crystal that are in the ground, like in, like hardtop.
Yeah.
It could have been anything. And she didn't have any choice but to dump the bag out and have this little poof of dust and debris all mixed in with everything. And so it's like, she couldn't say where it came from. And you're right. The problem here is that the jury's not supposed to know that that's been a point of contention.
Right.
So it probably means nothing to them.
Probably, except for the fact that it came up in opening arguments.
Yeah.
Like it came up again in opening arguments, and it's come up again like in questioning of people, and it's just not fucking true. And even if the jury doesn't get it, I get it, and I feel...
I'm happy for you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I feel vindicated.
I'm happy for you. Good.
So next up, we had another lady witness, as Kevin would say, another, not just a witness, a lady witness.
Lady witness.
Dr. Irini Scordi-Bello. Were you surprised that she was called today?
I was surprised. I knew that she had to be coming, and I did expect her to come before the crash reconstructionists, but I was not expecting that today. I thought we were going to see a bunch more thumb cops, and establish more of what they did in evidence gathering, but no. Irini Scordi-Bello, and she's a tough cookie.
She's straight as hell. I love it.
She also challenged Alessi, and I think the beginning part of his day was a little bit off. That was my observation.
I think he rallied after lunch with her. Yeah, I really do. But sure. She is very, very straight. She does that thing where she closes her eyes when she's trying to remember something, and then she opens her eyes and just says something. So you're like, okay, she searched her brain for that and got it.
Yep.
But he did establish a couple things in this besides the obvious that I just want to point out. I think a lot of his questioning of her, Alessi's cross-examination of her, was foundational for the forensic expert they are going to be bringing in, and pre-impeaching the neurologist dude that the Commonwealth is going to be bringing. Did you catch that he was like, do you know this guy, Dr. Wolf? And she's like, no. And did you catch that he was asking her, like, to an exhausting degree, isn't it true that the only person who's qualified to make determinations about the brain of a dead person is a forensic neurologist? A forensic neurologist. And she's like, oh, absolutely. I would never ask anyone else to look at my brain if I died. She didn't say that exactly, but yeah. Don't you think that's what he was doing?
Yeah, I do. And, she went into detail about how she had to send John's brain off to the neurologist to have a look at it. I guess we'll probably get to it, but I'm really interested in the conversation, the back and forth. The what does Alan Jackson call it? The colloquy between the two of them, where they were talking about if John could have hit his head on the hard ground, and if this would have. This is one of those moments where I was like, she's not giving an inch here.
Nope.
Like there were a lot of times where she would not give an inch, and I was really surprised. And I think that also comes down to the hypothermia determination. She wouldn't give an inch.
Yeah, but then she did. This was so interesting. So let me set the scene for you. The direct was very dry. It was very much what you would expect. The cross, like you said, did start a little rough, but we did learn a couple of things interestingly, even on direct. We learned that, by the way, one of his hands is bruised and it is not an IV bruise. There's IV indications, but he has bruising on one of his hands and it is not an IV bruise, and that's very interesting. He's got a bruise on the side of his knee, which is basically the only injury he has, like below the neck. And I don't think that Hank Brennan was, expecting her to throw in the neuropathologist so strongly, because then there was a whole line of questions he couldn't ask her because she basically said, I'm not qualified, which was very interesting. But essentially, when Alessi cross-examined her, I and I'm going to confess this on the radio, decided to take a bath. And I had my computer on the little wooden tray that goes across my bath, and I had my headphones in, and I was like, I'm just going to settle in like a Jennifer Love Hewitt scene in a movie or a Amy Adams scene and like watch and like really enjoy this and absorb it. So
luxurious.
It was very luxurious, and I think that the setting I was in, a little like sensory deprivation setting, like really helped me absorb it. And I know that the jurors are paying like super duper attention. So the main things that I took away from the cross-examination were, she established that she always over diagnoses basically in the cause of death. So if somebody comes in, for example, with a gunshot wound, but they also have a stab wound somewhere else, like she will say both of those things contributed to death, even if it's the gunshot wound was the domineering one. So first he was able to establish that like hypothermia may have been on the thing because it was also there, not because it was the cause. Then he was able to establish in this line of questioning that I thought was going nowhere.
Which is usually, I think, how he starts. That's why the judge gets so annoyed with him.
Yes, with showing the jury a photo of the inside of John O'Keefe's stomach, which I believe made one of them sick because they abruptly had to call a break right after lunch.
I heard the court officer be like, "Judge, can we take a break? The jury needs a break." And I was like, "Oh, they're getting sick to their stomach." Yeah, and meanwhile, I'm sitting there going, "Why can't we see these photographs? Like, I want to understand this."
I know. So one of the ways that I guess she's able to look at hypothermic changes in a body is through these lesions that happen inside a stomach lining. And through this long colloquy, as we'll call it now, basically what was established was that most people who die of hypothermia have a predominance of these lesions inside their stomach. These and he only had like 10 to 15% of the interior was covered with that. And so that was one part of it. Another part of it, big deal. Well, first of all, he also could have been hemorrhaging in his organs because they used a Lucas machine on him in the hospital. But the other part of it, yes, the other part of it was that one of the drugs that he was taking was Pepsid, and it was on his hospital record. So I'm guessing it was prescribed Pepsid. Pepsid is taken when people have like stomach ulcer conditions, which are caused by, wait for it, drinking a lot.
Heavy drinking. Yep.
So
he had stomach ulcers from drinking.
If he had stomach ulcers from drinking and he was drinking a lot that night, is a chance that his stomach ulcers were bleeding, upset or whatever. I mean, I think that probably exacerbated it. So, and then he said, so could these ulcers inside of his stomach been caused by drinking, ulcers related to drinking? And she was like, yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless he's a genius.
Yeah, he made his way there. Didn't you think?
He's so smart. Yeah, I think that the percentage, so it was 15% in John's stomach, but for hypothermia, it's usually closer to 50%.
Right.
One of the things that, I'm going to call her ISB because she has a long name. One of the things that ISB said was, this was her testimony, and it's quoted here, "I thought hypothermia because I was required to accept that he was in the snow the whole time." And that means that she was told by Michael Proctor, who, surprise, was actually there at the autopsy.
And she was told that. She was told
that. So she said, I was thinking hypothermia because I was told this. So it's not a solid determination of hypothermia.
Right.
And I don't think that she even thinks of it as a solid I think she thinks blunt force trauma is what caused his death. Alessi went down that questioning line of, and that's when we were talking about, did he fall? If he fell and hit his head on a hard surface, wouldn't the wound look like this? And
like
he basically like a star pattern. And then also he was like, did you find any grass in the wound? And she was like, nope. Did you find any debris in the wound? Nope. I mean, to me, that was an excellent point. Like if they're saying, even if he was hit by the car, if they're saying he was hit by the car and fell back and hit his head, like let's say on the berm, or he fell in his head on the frozen ground, like, Dr. Gilman or meteorologist Gilman said, there would be some debris at somewhere.
Right.
In his hair,
correct,
in his cut,
correct,
somewhere.
And
there was
they
nothing.
Can't have it both ways. They can't say it was because he landed on the snow, because they are trying to establish there wasn't any snow under his head when the time he fell. So they can't have it both ways. And I think the jury is smart. I thought the frostbite thing was fascinating. I looked it up. You can get frostbite. Okay. He had exposed hands and an exposed face. He was not wearing a coat.
Right.
15 to 30 minutes of exposure to like 5-degree temperatures when you have a wind chill. And the temperatures were fucking freezing that night. There was definitely a wind chill. You can get frostbite within 15 minutes. 15 to 30 minutes, you will get frostbite. So the prosecution theory, basically, it means, if they are right, that he was lying outside in wind chill conditions from 12:30-ish at night until 6-ish in the morning, right? 5.5 hours. He 100% would have had frostbite. And frostbite
and probably would have lost his limbs.
Well, he would have been dead, so they wouldn't have tried to save his limbs. But you're right. Yeah, he would have had the, the darkening of the skin, all the things you get. He didn't have any signs of frostbite, and that to me is damning. And I really hope the jury, I mean, they're all from Massachusetts, so I think that everybody understands what frostbite is, right?
I've had frostbite before. Have you had frostbite?
No.
Oh, yeah. I had my toes when I was a kid because they used to send us out to shovel the driveway, and it was like hours of work, and my little toes would freeze, and I would come in and they would be like purple.
Yes.
And you're that close. You can see it in your extremities that if it goes a little bit further, you're going to lose circulation.
Right.
You know, and I heard a couple of lawyers on YouTube say that with the testimony that happened today, that the judge should be dismissing the case, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, I mean, the thing is, if he doesn't have frostbite, he wasn't out there for all those hours. He was moved there.
Right. Absolutely. And, that I think is what their pathologist is going to say, that he died in a different place and was moved. And I bet they have lividity stuff. I don't know. We don't know what they have yet.
I've been wondering about lividity because if he was actually lying there from, let's say what their time, well, we don't know what their time is anymore because that's changing. Let's say 12:30 to 6 a.m., all of the blood would have pooled
in his back
and possibly even frozen. I don't know how that works, but it would have all been on the bottom of him. I would assume the audience knows what lividity is, but do you want to?
So lividity is the pooling of blood inside the body once you're dead, and it causes a dark, like purpley bruising look. So if you are dead on your side, like the right side of your body that's on the floor, it's gravity, basically. All the blood will go there. So you'll have this very dark. It's one of the reasons why it's 100% certain that the theory of the case in the Adnan Syed Heyman Lee murder is wrong. Because the state's theory of the case is that she was on her side in the trunk, curled up, and all of her lividity was on her stomach or back. I'm not 100% sure.
I think it was her back.
Definitely not on the side. So, what that means is the body is in one place for lividity to occur and then is moved. That's what it means.
I've always wondered about lividity with John because if he was truly lying on his back, and then my brain goes to what Katie McLaughlin said, that his head was closest to her and how he was positioned, if there was any kind of hilly lawns parts, like lividity, I think would tell us a lot about John's death. And if there wasn't any lividity present, don't you think this would have to be in the coroner's report?
Yes.
I'm surprised that neither side is talking about it.
Well, the photographic evidence of John O'Keefe and John O'Keefe's body is thin. Like, it seems very thin. So I just don't know. So there was another very big revelation, or at least admitted revelation on the stand, which was basically, we didn't hear a lot. I mean, maybe we did, but it didn't stick out to me. I don't think the cross-examination was this robust last time, right? They got a couple of big admissions and that was that. But now we have a Leslie,
I didn't understand it,
who's so technical, but essentially he's slow, which can be frustrating. But what he's building to is the injury on John O'Keefe's eyelid, is the laceration above his eye consistent with falling backwards and hitting your head on the ground? No. Is it consistent with a punch? Yes.
Yes.
Specific question and answer. Is this eye injury consistent with a punch? Yes.
Well, let me just add to that too, because there was a section of questioning during this time where Hank Brennan objected, and so the witness was cut off in the middle of her answer. But what she got out before she was cut off is that she was told that there was an altercation.
Potential altercation, yes, at the party.
So Scordi-Bello said there was a potential altercation that came from the very first verbal report, which was either Buchanan or Proctor.
Right.
Telling her there might have been a fight, and that's why he looks the way that he does.
Right.
Tell me when they decided to go whole hog into the I hit him thing. When was that decision made and why?
So Jen McCabe, nothing happened at the scene. No one heard at the scene. If someone says they heard at the scene, they're fucking lying. Jen McCabe called the cops back to 34 Fairview at about 9 something in the morning and said, "Oh, I forgot to tell you that Karen said this thing." Now, Karen believes if she said it, what she may have said was X. I don't think Karen remembers saying anything, and I actually don't think she said anything along these lines. But now she has admitted that if she said something, it would have been, could I have, did I have, and now that's become part of the story. But, and I think she got that from Jen McCabe, to be straight up. But
in the car ride over to get to Carrie's house.
Right. And I think that it caught on. I think the cops were probably talking about it. It was part of the chatter. And then Katie McLaughlin either made the decision to say she heard it or decided that she had heard it because she had this game of telephone and like the internal urge to be a hero, like you've been talking about, may have taken over her subconscious and all of a sudden it became an implanted memory, or she was just lying and saying she heard it so she could be a hero. I keep thinking about the Katie McLaughlin testimony and her saying, "I am not friends with Caitlin Albert," and thinking like, yeah, I bet you're not now. So it came days later. I mean, when John O'Keefe's father saw him in the hospital, he said he thought he'd gone rounds in a fight. Everyone said he looked like he'd been in a fight. I
mean, including the first cops on the scene that saw him, including the first responders, including his dad.
Mm-hmm.
I heard a rumor. I don't know if I read this on I almost said Twitter or not, but there's a rumor out there that John's dad believes she's innocent.
I've heard that,
and that's why he's not in court.
And I just don't know if that's true, but I have heard that. It's an interesting rumor. It's
they
like
did have a good relationship.
Another interesting rumor out there that you planted in my head, and now I keep looking for evidence of it, is that the Dedham Fire Department is free Karen Read, which is why they keep doing the parade sirens every time they drive by the courthouse.
They were so loud today, too. Oh, man, they had to stop so many times. They were like just holding on it, yeah.
So it's one of those rumors that's like fun if true, but probably not true, Sort of like Bev, who said, asshole, who we don't know.
I really want to know.
I want to know.
I don't think it was her.
I don't think it was her either, because if it was, it would be bad. But people think it was McLaughlin, the attorney on the other side.
It could have been.
You hear right after the word asshole comes out, somebody giggles. There's a little giggle. I had the tape in the show last night. I played it a couple times. It's like you hear asshole and then you hear somebody going.
I mean, but the thing is, I'm trying to think of like where the mics are in the courtroom, and they're only at the witness stand.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the judge has one, but she doesn't use it very often.
Maybe it was a juror. Maybe it was a juror calling Bev an asshole. You never know.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows?
Remember that like Sue O'Connell does keep saying there's a couple of jurors who are gigglers, so you never know.
Yeah.
So on redirect, Hank Brennan just asks ISB. This is sort of like our KSM of this case, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. This is our ISB. Yeah. He keeps asking ISB, doing the same thing that Lally did. Were you aware that the witness made statements at the scene? I hit him. Were you aware that there was embedded fucking taillight in his shirt? Which there was not. Were you aware? Like, he keeps asking him those questions. And finally, I mean, it was objection. And finally, Bev had to the jury and say, listen, you are not judging the truth of the statements. You're just saying what her state of mind may have been if she had heard these statements. But I'm also like, come on. And then in recross, Alessi was like, didn't you have a bunch of this information before you issued your final report? And she was like, I did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
End of discussion. Yeah.
Can we talk about, well, first of all, that moment, I was just like, man, Hank Brennan, he's kind of dirty. He just like the way he does things is so dirty. Dirty Hank. He just like...
His redirect sounded like a cross. It sounded like he was trying
he's a defense lawyer.
Yep.
I mean, he's not even supposed to be there.
Yep.
I mean, like, I don't understand what they're doing.
He wasn't treating her like a friendly witness in that redirect at all.
It's crazy to me that we're in this place right now because the Commonwealth of Massachusetts couldn't find a prosecutor who would try this case. And so they had to go find Hank Brennan. And now here we are, and we're all having to live through this again, including, I mean, obviously Karen Read is having to pay for new expert analysis, new experts. The amount of money she's had to put into this trial just to save herself because nobody wanted to prosecute this case.
Yeah.
That should tell the judge something.
Yeah.
that they had to hire Hank Brennan to come in.
And he's dirty.
He's going to make like
he's a dirty
he's gonna
player.
make like $1 million off of this thing. It's ridiculous.
You know, I have a theory. I don't know if we talked about it on the show about, you know, how like the current legal team says they're no longer accepting payments from Karen Read. They're going they're essentially, they basically signaling that they've been going pro bono. You know what I think?
What's that?
I think, this is my theory, it's pure speculation, that they have a deal with her to be like executive producers of whatever documentary she's able to make or sell her story. You know, she's going to get, she has IP. I mean, if this ends and she's acquitted, she owns her IP. Like she owns the best version of this IP, right? Yeah. And I think there's some sort of back end, like Hollywood type points deal where they're like, we'll be part of this IP situation in exchange for our work here. I mean, what else does she have to give them? I mean, whatever deal she makes, it's not going to be anymore. It's not going to be a $10 million deal, her first out of the gate deal. It's not how it works, right? So, so that's what I think. That's an interesting theory. And I would say that, you know, that would make sense coming from Alan Jackson because that's his world. I just don't know if that's a ton of money. I mean, I just don't know. Even if it's career making, though, it's more like it's about the money you will make because you are, you know, the producer of this documentary about this thing, and he's the talking head. He has been his best spokesperson. He and David Yannetti both just standing by her side, being like. Yeah. Really putting their necks out because if it turns out she did do it, they're fucked. But they're really no, she didn't. Of course she didn't. But they've really created characters for themselves as paragons of truth and justice, which is incredible. I mean, I'm
happy for Yannetti. I feel like Alan Jackson had it. He's good.
He's
fine
either way. He's getting Weinstein.
Fine either way.
He's fucking
but
fine.
But Yannetti, I like, you know, hometown boy makes good kind of thing. And I'm just thinking along the lines of, you know, the Aaron Lee Carr, the Alec Murdaugh movie that's like, I assume that's the trajectory of this. I assume that it's going to be books and documentaries and then film.
Scripted and doc together, like some Ryan Murphy situation. Yeah, no, I totally agree.
So I think that Karen, I hope that she makes some money because I think that what they've put her through and the amount of money she's had to put into this. I mean, granted, they've also raised like $1 million from the followers.
Yeah.
Or no. Even more than that. How much have they raised?
They've raised a lot, but not nearly enough.
Quite a bit of money. But she had to, you know, sell her house to pay for this. And
who's paying the hotel bill right now? That's what I want to know. Because they're staying at
I think it's coming out of her. Because they're coming out of.
Yeah, they're staying
escrow.
At the Omni. We know they're staying at the Omni and the port because of that stupid woman who keeps stalking them.
Well, there are a lot of pictures of them downtown. I mean, I keep seeing pictures of them in the seaport. There's one picture that's really great. It's Karen and Alan Jackson walking and they're laughing and talking. And in the background is a murder tour bus.
Yes.
Have you seen that one?
People taking pictures
or the
of
trolley.
Them. Yeah.
Yeah. So great. So great.
The other thing that I keep seeing is in restaurants. If they come into a restaurant, they'll take a photo with the food and the restaurant owner's been putting it like on the board as if a celebrity came in. It's quite funny.
Yeah.
All right. So before we talk about the end of Bello's testimony, let's rewind a little bit. Do you remember the testimony of one Connor Keefe? What he said about attending John O'Keefe's autopsy? What did he say?
I certainly remember it because I remember thinking, oh, this guy's a good guy. He's just a rookie. They used him for all these shitty jobs. He went to the autopsy completely by himself because we talked about it. I said, I think they sent him to the autopsy because he was a grunt and they didn't feel like doing it. Michael Proctor didn't want to be there. I was wrong because Connor Keefe lied on the stand.
Somebody was there with him that sure looked a hell of a lot like Michael Proctor. So there was a photo.
Not only the photo.
Scordi-Bello said on the stand there were two people there, two cops there. And then she was asked, and you know they knew this in advance because she was asked, like, what would be the documentation of the people who came in? And she's like, well, they would write their names and their badge numbers on the log. She also mentioned that she was not in her regular office. She's from a different office, and she was just there covering because they were short-staffed. How much do you bet she wishes she had not taken that call, right?
Oh, yeah. Same.
So she's there, and then we see this photo of Lil O'Keefe standing in the waiting room of the Cape Cod coroner's office with a bald dude who looks an awful lot like...
But not only that, Michael Proctor, but not only that, at the very top of that picture, did you see the writing on it?
You told me to look at the writing on it, so I did. What did it say?
It says Proctor and Keefe. So the photo identifies that it's Proctor because in the photo, they're both wearing face masks because they're in the autopsy room and they have... you know, latex gloves on and everything. One of them, I think Proctor has the camera on,
Proctor has a big old DSLR, Like on a big old strap. I thought it was a gun when I first. I'm like, what is that huge black thing? It was a camera, big old camera. Because she had said that cops were allowed to take their own photos in the autopsy.
Right. I want to see those pictures.
Not me.
Yeah. I want to see them because I want to study them. Just like I studied the sweatshirt this morning. The puncture holes in the sweatshirt I think you and I both talked about this on our different social medias, but the puncture holes have, I don't know how to describe
threads
it.
Pulling out.
The thread pulling out, which means that something went in and something came out.
So imagine that on the sweatshirt arm where he was definitely bitten by a dog. But even if you don't believe he was bitten by a dog, whatever it is that went in there had to have come out because all the holes have pulls around them, like as if you had put a fork in your sweatshirt and then pulled it out. So if it was plastic taillight pieces, which it definitely was not, then that happened when they were like pulled out. But then how many pieces could there have been? And if they had pulled them out of the hospital, they wouldn't all be on the front fucking lawn at 34 Fairview. So it was also a dog.
If the taillight pieces, again, this is another thing. If the taillight pieces shattered and went through the sweatshirt and cut him, wouldn't they have found taillight inside the sweatshirt?
Yes. There would have been taillight at the hospital or in the ambulance, not and all over the lot, 47 pieces
embedded in his clothes. I mean, if it did that much damage to him, which there's no
But Mel, wait, there was microscopic pieces of taillight embedded in his shirt. Haven't you heard?
Yeah, it was ground to a dust under the snow.
Yeah, so poor Keith lied. He lied.
I don't know. Does he know he lied?
Maybe not. Maybe he was just told that he was there by himself. I don't know. Or maybe we've been assuming it. Maybe people have been assuming he was there by himself because of that text that said rookie move, not leaving with that whatever. Maybe Proctor was there for a while and then left. Like, who knows? Maybe Proctor was just lying so he looked better about not getting the murder thing himself.
Well, that's my point. Like, I went back to the text messages because it said rookie move not getting. And it's like, when you and I talked about it, you read the text as they sent a rookie to do this job. I read the text as his buddies were chiding him and calling him a rookie. Like, rookie move, dude, you didn't get what you needed. So I've always thought that Michael Proctor was at the autopsy because they were saying to him, rookie move.
Right.
But then when Keith testified, I was like, oh, I was wrong. I guess Michael Proctor wasn't at that. No, I was right.
He was there.
He was at the He was there.
He was there. And he was probably the one who told her in the moment that this guy was in a fight. We think he was in a fight.
She got that information verbally from someone in the Massachusetts State Police right before she was about to do the autopsy.
Yes.
So it was either Keith Buchanan or Proctor.
It was somebody whose head looks like a thumb and whose photo says Proctor on it is who it was. All right. So do you want to talk about what happened after Irini Scordi-Bello got off the stand? Because Bev, their testimony was done around 3:30ish, and she was like, okay, juries, I know it's a little early, but I'm going to send you home for the day. And then we got a surprise
hearing.
You're
all set.
You're all set. You can come back tomorrow.
You are all
by
set.
the way, one thing I just want to mention is that tomorrow I will be on the road. So if anything groundbreaking happens, I'm either going to have to tape it on Saturday, or Mel, you and Kevin are going to have to connect and make a fucking podcast. And I may
that would be fun.
Yeah, he actually made the suggestion. So if there's no podcast tomorrow, listeners, it's because I physically can't. But again, if there's an emergency and we decide it must be tomorrow or we'll die, it could be a completely new format. We will see. All right. So let's talk about the hearing that happened after. It was a surprise to me. But each side brought an issue that they wanted to hash out. And the first one blew my fucking mind.
Mine too. Let me just pull up my notes.
This is the background. You remember, Hank Brennan has been accusing the defense, successfully accusing them of these, quote, Rule 14 violations about not bringing evidence the right way or early enough or whatever. And he's gotten them basically sanctioned by the judge around, quote, lying about the ARCA witnesses, which they did not do. But he's been very successful in this campaign. And he's all like, trial by ambush. They just want to bring something in. And I always knew this was going to happen, as if he's not putting on a case and they're not defending a client. Anyway, turns out Mr. Brennan may have his own little Rule 14 violation. He hired this company, Aperture, back in October. This is where that guy, Dr. Welcher, works, and this dude, Shannon Burgess, works. And they keep calling him Mr. Burgess. So I don't think he's a doctor, neither here nor there, but Shannon is a man. So they got a report that the defense received on May 11th. That is 4 days ago. So that is
4 days ago.
Monday to Sunday, Monday.
And the report was done on the 8th. They didn't give it to the defense for 4 days.
Correct. And Shannon Burgess had this, quote, trigger time, whatever it is, event, allegedly from Karen's car that would basically say that she hit him somewhere in the range of 31 minutes. They gave this like range of like 15 seconds or whatever.
12:31 a.m. Yep.
Yes. He now, in his amended report, wants to shift that time to 12:32:16 in order to, I shit you not, align his facts with Ian Whiffin's facts, which was the phone data dump from John O'Keefe. When he said that in court, when Alessi said that in court, you could have scraped my jaw off the counter. Thoughts?
Alessi was on fire. He was mad. That was the loudest he was all day. My thoughts are this. Why? Why are you doing this? First of all, I have a lot of thoughts. I think that Hank Brennan is 3-4 weeks into this trial and he's realizing he's losing and he's trying to change his theory again. But how does this help them?
Right. Remember,
you need those minutes.
You need those more minutes. You should be moving your thing forward, not backward.
If you were coming in and saying this happened at 12:29, I might understand it.
12:21, 12:22.
Like, if Bev doesn't see that he's trying to match it to Whiffen, and he's not an actual expert basing this in data, he's basing it on what somebody else is saying. Like, I honestly don't know what she's going to do here, and I'm a little bit nervous about it, but I'm not that nervous about it because it helps the defense.
It does help them. If the time is now 12:32, it makes it even less likely. If they're going to say that's when the impact happened, I don't think he died.
Now we're getting into 3.5 minutes to Wi-Fi.
I got to say, I don't think, in my opinion, I think he died earlier than that and somebody else opened his phone. That's what I've come to believe. I've come to believe he died like 10 minutes earlier because they arrived at like 12:21 or whatever. I think he went in the car, went in the house, went in the garage or whatever. And I think they were trying to figure out what the fuck to do. And then Karen was gone. And they are super lucky that she never came back. Because if she had come back, this whole story would be very different, right? But I think it's very possible that the unlocking of the phone was done by somebody with his face that wasn't him. And that would account for the steps and the going upstairs and the downstairs and all that shit. But I think he was already gravely injured before that. But they are now going with the collision happened at 12:32:16. Not helpful for them.
No. So why are we fighting about this? Like, I understand what Alessi's saying, and I understand the point. He's only asking to be able to question them about it.
Well, he's asking for the new version of their report to be out of the trial or requesting a continuance so that ARCA can prepare and they can do new testing around this new time. The issue is this. Ian Whiffen, their whole premise of their defense after Whiffen's testimony was because they knew this 12:31 trigger time because it was in the opening statement. Brennan said in the opening statement, this is when he was hit. It was the 12:31 time. Their whole questioning of Whiffen, the big revelation was that his last iPhone action that involved his face was after that time. So they really hammered that. And it was like that was their big takeaway from Whiffen is, so you're saying the phone had to have been opened with his face after 12:32 and that was the last activity on the phone. I think that's when it was put in airplane mode or turned off or some shit, but whatever. And so that was it. But they would have questioned him differently if they had known that the prosecution's theory was going to be that was when he was hit by the car. So that's why they're so upset.
It changes all the timelines. It changes the previous testimony. Like they would have to start over, or the jury would have to go home for 2 weeks for them to conduct these experiments and have a rebuttal. But how about the moment when Bev didn't even remember that Aperture had nothing to do with the last friggin' trial?
I thought I recognized
Bev
the name.
Being like, Burgess, didn't he testify last time? No, he was not anywhere near this trial.
The name sounds familiar. It's literally what she said.
How is she on this case? I just don't. She literally was like, well, did they testify about this last time? And he goes, Aperture wasn't in the trial last time. And she goes, I know Aperture wasn't, but wasn't Burgess?
And he was like, didn't he work for somebody else? She almost let a witness today spontaneously change their testimony from yesterday before Alessi shut it down. Remember that?
We didn't even talk about that. Maureen Hartnett. I wish that
I actually wanted to know what she had said, what she was going to say, because I bet it actually wouldn't have been bad. I bet it wasn't going to be bad. I bet it was
going to be helpful for the defense because I think that Hank Brennan, who objected in that moment,
they both objected.
It was Alessi. Yeah.
But I think she was going to correct it and say she'd only collected one piece of glass. That's what I suspect. Because there was only one fucking piece of tape on that car with the B on it, and I think she was going to amend that. Is my guess, but who knows?
It was so interesting to me that moment for her to say, I know we're going back to yesterday, but for her to say that they were 2 pieces of tape and that she collected 2 pieces of glass, she must have only been reading that off of her report. Correct. And then when she realized it was a reflection, I'm wondering, I think you might be right, but why can't they tell us that information?
Well,
and did they amend the record? But that's my question.
No.
In sidebar?
They didn't. She was finished because he didn't know what she was going to say. And you cannot ask a witness something you don't know the answer to. He did not know.
Can they recall her, I wonder? I don't think they would.
Maybe. All right. So then, so she's going to take this under consideration. She doesn't know. But then Brennan had his own fucking complaint. All right. His new complaint is that Dr. Welcher hasn't yet had enough time to absorb the report that they got from ARCA on May 7th, which included a bunch of new tests, which, by the way, they fucking said they were going to do. The report came in, and he's been away. He's had difficulties, like being... So
they're going to have to do it late this weekend.
So his whole thing is he's going to need... He's identified serious flaws with the ARCA test. No, he fucking hasn't. He's identified things that don't help you is the problem.
Right.
So he had the balls to make this suggestion, okay? His relief, the only relief I can think of, Judge Cannoni, is that after ARCA testifies and after essentially the defense is over, I am then going to bring in Dr. Welcher to talk about the new shit he has done to debunk the testimony of these dudes that we just heard for the defense. And Alessi rightly was like,
lost his mind.
This is improper. This is improper. You are changing the order here, which would completely prejudice against the defense and is just wrong. You can't have a rebuttal to a defense witness when the cross-examination is the rebuttal and the defense is the rebuttal to the prosecution. Like, I could not, when he said that,
case.
I couldn't fucking believe he suggested that. Could you?
I could, because it's Hank Brennan, because he is grasping at straws. I think he completely underestimated. I think he thought he was a lot smarter than he is. And I think he completely underestimated that his ability to put on a show was going to outmaneuver a defense team that came with receipts.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now he's like, fuck. And so we're in the middle of this trial and he is reformulating his theory, which I think,
I'm allowed to change my theory of the case mid-trial.
He's changing his theory. So then he's got to recalibrate his expert witnesses. He wants to know what ARCA is going to say. That's always been the issue for him. He doesn't want ARCA to testify. I don't care how many times he says he does. He doesn't want ARCA to testify. But now that they're being allowed, now he's trying to figure out another way around their testimony.
Correct. By being able to bring an expert in after them, which is so improper. My problem is I'm always afraid of what Bev will decide because she's so all over the place. Like, she could allow this. She could. And by the way, this would be a reversible error if she fucking allowed it. I'm certain it would.
I think her not remembering the last trial, and if this new company that is coming in with new data didn't testify in the last trial, like, the fact that she can't remember that is a problem.
It's a huge problem. It's huge. And if literally anybody in her life would just say, just as with when Brennan requested communications between Karen and her lawyers, for once she was like, yeah, you're not going to win this, dude. You're just not. Like, this should be, like, she should have been able in the moment to be like, yeah, that's not going to happen. You need to come up with another solution. Suggested in the morning, and we'll talk about it then, because she really wanted to get the fuck out of there. You could tell. She's like, my car's already warming up. I did it on the remote. Like, I got to get the fuck out of here.
I think she's trying to, I think the reason why she didn't say that is because she wants to show that she's, doing her due diligence in, like, deciding on this. But I've also noticed that as soon as Alessi makes an argument to her and once he makes an argument that it sounds very smart to her and it brings up the law, it's sort of like when she was making the decision about ARCA and he started being like, this doesn't pertain, like, what you're saying is not the law.
You don't have jurisdiction over this.
Listen, you're going to win. Just let me say this. But I think that when he starts doing that is when she goes, shit, I'm going to have to agree with him because I think he's right.
I know. She hates him.
But I think
much.
I know she hates him so much. Even when he's like, today, I forget what he was doing, but he was starting to lay out and she's like, let's just stick with, today or this date, Mr. Alessi. And he was actually laying it out because she had forgotten details. The Bev had forgotten details. So he felt like he needed to lay something out for her. But I'm like, I think she's just taking the night.
The detail of what's proper in a criminal trial. I have a question for you. Because you weren't here a couple days ago. Did you hear my unifying theory of the dads of this case? Did you hear that?
No, I don't think I did. I listened to every episode.
I was talking with Bethany about all the lawyers in this case and my characterization of them as different kinds of dads. And of course, Hank Brennan is the super uptight guy who's now a stepdad who has a bunch of kids living in his house he doesn't know what to do with. And he's like, okay. And then I have Jackson, super fun weekend dad. His spouse is perennially mad at him because not only is he never around, but then when he is around, he's like, let's go to Disneyland, kids, right? And then Yannetti, who's also not around a lot, but is super earnest and makes every game he can and tries to go to as many meetings as he can. But, he's real busy. So he's just, and then you have Alessi, who's like super involved, knows all his kids' names, who their third grade teacher was, all his kids' friends' names, and he never forgets a birthday. Like, he's that guy. Do you agree with my unifying theory of the dads of the Karen Read case?
Absolutely. The only thing I would change is with David Yannetti. I think he's such a solid guy that not only is he like a good dad, he's also probably a good husband.
That's what I said. Probably a great partner. Who even knows if is he married? I don't even fucking know. I don't care.
I don't know, but he's like, I would like to have lunch with him.
Let me just say, if I'm picking one for myself as husband number 3, it's Yannetti. 100%.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a lesbian, but I would definitely pick David Yannetti.
He's fit as fuck. He eats really healthy. He's great. And I don't even like fit people, but he's fit in a way that's very accessible. He's like accessibly fit.
And when he gets mad, like when he, like the other day when he was like, I want a sidebar now, I was like, yes, sir. Like I completely, if I were the judge, I'd be like, sidebar, let's do it.
So you can sidebar right over here, Mr. Yannetti. Do you think anybody is? Oh, he knows. Do you think anybody is looking at Hank Brennan and being like, "Yeah, I'll do a side"? No, but no.
He's looked that way ever since the Whitey Bulger trial too. His look hasn't changed. Yes. Have you noticed that?
Yes, and he is the kind of guy who goes into like a store like Whole Foods or whatever and picks up a box and like really tries to figure out why something costs what it does. Like he's just like, wait a minute, there used to be 16 ounces of cereal in this box and now there's only 14 ounces and it's the same price. I need to speak to the manager. That's him.
Yeah, he's a male Karen for sure.
All right, so again, I will not be available to tape tomorrow, but I will be back this weekend if anything amazing happens. And if there's an emergency, I'm going to connect you and Kevin so that you can do a rogue readathon and just hope it goes well.
And maybe I was thinking tonight when I was like, you're going to have to explain this to me. Like I'm Kevin this time. I really should get like a goatee.
A circle beard merkin, like a face merkin.
But let me ask 2 things. Who do you think is going to be called next? And what qualifies as an emergency?
You mean like if something happens tomorrow? Mm-hmm. That'll be up to you guys. You guys can decide if something's an emergency. But I know that I'll be following on social media while I'm having dinner and hanging out with my friend Anita, and I'll be like, fuck, we need to pull the ripcord and just get this done. But hopefully it can keep till the weekend. We'll see.
Okay, but who's up next, do you think?
Next up, well, we know it's not either one of the guys from Aperture because he said that Burgess had to go first before Welcher. And we know that Burgess is next. It's not going to be them. I wonder if it's going to be their neurologist guy. Could be their neurologist. It could be their dog bite expert who's not allowed to talk about using molds to compare with bites.
It's shitty science.
We have not heard from their dog bite expert, which I can't wait to hear from their dog bite expert.
At this point, I don't think Hank Brennan wants to put any focus on the dog because if he does, they're going to start thinking about those puncture holes in the sweatshirt.
Hiring a dog bite expert was a horrible decision on his part because it's basically just like everything else he's done, validating all of the defense claims. If you're defending a claim, you're litigating. And like I always say at work, when someone gets, someone say, I oversee another manager, right? And if that other manager gets a wonky, nutty email from someone on his team and he's like, how do I deal with this? I'm like, don't. Literally just say, I got your email, thanks. Leave it there because if you start litigating, it will go back and forth forever. You guys will hate each other a lot. It will just suck all your energy away. All this person wants is to be heard. Say, I heard you, and do not litigate any of that shit. So I think it's a huge mistake when you start litigating things because it puts in the mind of the jury of why is he being defensive about this?
Right. Well, he's been defensive this entire time. Do you really think that we're at the place in the case in chief where he's not calling Higgins, he's not calling Brian Albert, and he's not calling Proctor?
Don't you think he would have called them at the beginning, like when he called Jen?
I don't know.
At this point, it's too late. Their names have been invoked way too much. It's way too late. I actually am thinking it's only 50-50 now the defense is going to call Proctor. Not because I think that Brennan can rehabilitate him, but I just don't think... They've had other cops shitting on this dude. Like, what is the upside of calling him?
I think the most important witness is Brian Higgins.
And Brian Albert for sure, because Brian Albert's scary. And they've done a very good job of portraying these guys as scary. Brian Albert is way scarier in presentation than Higgins. Yeah. But Higgins is the one who hired a fucking lawyer and threw his phone in 2 dumpsters. And it's only because he has talked more that he's more in the hot seat. And also because he probably was the instigator of this whole thing. So one last thing before we go, I sent you a tweet by somebody I hate sharing content from. All right. So those of you who are outside of Boston, the area who don't know, there's this guy, Howie Carr. He's a columnist with the Boston Herald, and he also has a talk radio show. He is a media institution in this part of the world, and he is a shitty fucking human being. He's racist, he's homophobic, he's anti-immigrant, he's all the things you could possibly imagine, right? But... like a lot of people, he is one of these very anti-government types. And for some reason, that also includes law enforcement in Boston. And I think it's because, in large part, I think a lot of conservatives in Boston hate law enforcement because they have a proven track record of stealing money from people. Like a lot of the scandals have involved literally faking overtime and making $500,000 a year when your job only pays $80,000. It's shit like that. Yep. So there's a lot of mistrust there with Boston cops, as there should be. And Howie Carr has had his eyes firmly on Canton and the Karen Read case for a year and a half. Like every column, every tweet, everything except like the day before Election Day was only about this. And he also tweets about ICE and quote illegal aliens bullshit. But the whole point is I hate sharing his content. But he did share yesterday that I think it's
Melanie Little. She's an attorney. Little. She's got a very big following on YouTube, and she does the trial live every day, and she's been covering it for the entire time. I think she has some connection to Alan Jackson as well. Yeah, and she's on Court TV and all that. Yeah, that cleaned up Sally Port video that the Commonwealth shared, where he was like, fast forward. Okay, now look at this part. Fast forward. They have obviously edited it seems. And there's 2 frames now captured of 2 dudes standing next to the car. One of the dudes looks just like the dude in the video in the Canton Police Department that we saw walking around the parking lot, which is, I think, Brian Higgins, although there's a conspiracy theory that it's Brian Albert, but it's fucking Brian Higgins. Let's be real. Who did you think that was in that one still frame? Yeah, my first instinct was Brian Higgins. He's wearing like a beanie, it looks like. So was Higgins in the parking lot of that video. Yeah, so he's wearing a beanie, and I think that's Higgins checking in. I think Higgins is over, because I think Higgins has guilty conscience. Yeah. I think he has guilty conscience because he met with them with his lawyers, with his lawyers. You mean consciousness of guilt, as Hank Brennan would say? Yeah, consciousness of guilt. I think Higgins has it written all over him. And I think that they are trying to keep him away from the jury, which is why we never saw the video surveillance in the last trial, which is why we never saw this video with him, what looks like him or Brian Albert. The issue is that they're about the same height. I think they have the exact same sort of egg body type. Higgins is a little more of an egg. Is he? This is not fat shaming. This is no. Observing. Higgins is, at that time, I have no idea what he looks like now. If you watch that waterfall video, he looks like a snowman. I think it was a sweatshirt. Yeah, he looks like a snowman. Like he's real round he's wearing in the middle, a big bulky hoodie with like a little round head. And Brian Albert is also very big, but he looks a lot tougher. He looks a lot more muscular. Like he's big. Well, he was wearing one of those ribbed, like North Face. Yeah, like a thin puffy coat. But also Albert has that Marine body. Like I know that Higgins was also in the service, but like Albert was a Navy SEAL or whatever, right? Or or Marine, something. Marine Special Forces or something. He looks like he's violent. That's all I know. He's big. Yeah. He looks like he still lifts. And Higgins does not look like he still lifts. I'll just leave it. Let's leave it there. But neither do I, by the way. I don't lift, so. I don't know. My initial reaction was it's another cop who looks like a thumb wearing a beanie, and it's a bigger guy, so I'm assuming it's BA or BH. Everyone knows, if you've ever been to Boston, the winter uniform of Boston man is a beanie
and either a puffy coat or a pea coat. Like that's it. Mm-hmm. That's the winter uniform.
And some lesbians, if I'm being honest.
Yes, and then in the summer, it's a Red Sox cap.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Or how about the guys who wear like cargo shorts in the wintertime with like a sweatshirt and a beanie?
That's the John O'Keefe way, right? Wasn't he the short sleeve, never wore a coat? Yeah. That's like very New England. My kids never wore pants to school in the winter. Made me fucking crazy.
Me either.
All right. So we will see what happens this weekend with our coverage here on the Readathon, but it's been a hell of a week. And Mel, you've been an incredible partner in this podcast, and I can't thank you enough. And the listeners love you. Look at the comments on the episodes.
I think they just love Ruby. Well, I think they just love Ruby.
Unfortunately, some of my editing takes out some of Ruby, so why don't you pick her up so that we can see her real quick?
Everybody's been asking to see her. Did you see that picture I posted the other day? That's what she literally does in the chair behind me.
Yes.
All day long. That's what she does all day. Want to get in the mic, Rubes?
Oh, Ruby. Ruby.
Yep. She's a good girl.
All right, Mel. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much.
All right. Thanks, Rebecca.
Partners in Crime Media.